Alright, good morning folks, howdy. Got some jars sterilized in here. This morning we're going to can some pineapples. Alright, so I bought these 4 pineapples. I'd like to say I got them on sale, but they're really not that cheap anymore. It was like $12 for these 4 pineapples. But the way I look at it is you got to get them when the getting's good. And you can't put a price on those pineapples if all the shelves are empty and there's none to be found. So my goal, well, today is to get a minimum of 4 quarts. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get probably closer to 5 quarts out of these 4. And I'm kind of doing it as a test batch. So the next time I buy them, I'll know how many pineapples I need. So I'm concentrating on getting some fruits on the shelves right now, just because fruits are harder to come by sometimes when there's emergencies and catastrophes, stuff like that. So we're going to be slicing these up shortly. As soon as the jars are done, we're going to do a cold pack method, and we're just going to make a simple syrup, and I have a shortcut to do that. So stay tuned. Okay, so I got all my jars sterilized. I boiled them for about 15 minutes. Those jars were also pre-cleaned, obviously. And we're going to go start slicing up our pineapples. So we got our pineapple. I'm just going to remove this top. Hopefully I don't want to waste anything here. Alright, once I get the majority of this sliced up, then I'll pull over a jar. Alright, so I have a corer for a pineapple. I don't always use this, but today we're going to use it. Try and get it on the center there. These usually work pretty good. A lot of juice here, so I'm going to have to, let's see, I'm going to make sure this thing goes all the way through here. Try not to fling it. Look at that. Just gonna dump this out because there might be a little bit I could trim off in there. Let's see, let me get a paper towel. Maybe the next one I'll do over the sink. So as I go, I'm gonna just trim off some of these little bits, little hard pieces of, I don't know if it's core or, doesn't matter. So I got my clean jar right here. Well, let me get this out of here. Jeez. There we go. Look at that. Now the core is in here, so I'll have to push this out. Look at that, that's perfect. Just so you can see that. Perfect. Alright, so now by doing it this way, it does make it a little bit easier to cut these. Hopefully they don't fall all over the place. Try and do smaller. I'm just hoping it doesn't just make a mess. But it does save quite a bit of time. Look at that. Perfect. Now these are a little thin, but it is what it is. Try one of these bad boys. Yeah, Okay, now we're just gonna drop these down into our jar. Now, some people make their syrup separate. I'm actually not going to do that. We're going to cheat our syrup a little bit. Now we're making like a medium heavy syrup. So the first time I did my peaches, I did a heavier syrup and they were delicious. Obviously it's more sugar. But last year I did, I tried cutting way back on the sugar and I did the minimal amount, and there's really not great flavor. And one of the keys is to make sure you have good flavor. You can hear my chickens out there laying eggs. Alright, I don't know if you could see the jar. I'll pick it up in a minute. But this looks like this whole pineapple is going to fill up 1 quart. Which is good. Now I know. Just don't want to waste anything here. Nothing like fresh pineapple. Alright, so this is 1 jar, but I just sliced up all the skin and I'm going to be able to get quite a bit off of that skin. So we're going to slice that up and see how much we get in another jar. These things are too expensive to waste. Probably get more of a paring knife would probably be better. So this is going to take a little more time, no big deal. Canning is not a speedy process. It's not a race anyway. So these are a little bit bigger chunks than using the corer. This might even fill up a whole jar. So I might get more. I might fill up all 7 jars. I don't know. Glad I didn't just throw this away. Now also, sure, you can buy canned pineapple, in cans, but the expiration dates aren't great. But it'd probably be equivalent to this expiring. But by canning, you're getting more for your money. You're controlling the ingredients. You're not putting anything in here, any poisons, toxins. I mean, yeah, the sugar isn't absolutely fantastic for you, but in the scheme of things, if we're in a situation where you can't buy this stuff, you're gonna want a little extra sugar in your diet, salts, stuff like that. But think about it, how nice would it be if you're 6 months into a power outage and you could pull out a jar of pineapples or a jar of peaches or pears or something. I mean, that would be fantastic. Now, I'm not trying to get too cute, not trying to scrape off every single little morsel here, because you get to some of these little hard parts of the skin that are inside the pineapple, and all the pieces don't have to be uniform. They don't have to be the same exact size. And that's the beautiful thing about canning. You're prepping it, make it the way you want it. So I'm probably going to end up with half a jar here from this. Alright, so that's how much I got just from the skins. So that's pretty good. So that's telling me I'm probably going to get 6 jars or 6 quarts. I moved my operation into the sink here. I'm not going to video me cutting up the other 3. I'll get back to you, you know, just to save time. It's a little boring just watching me cut stuff up. Okay, out of the 4 pineapples, I got 5 quarts. Now it looks like I filled them kind of high, but I didn't really, because once you process these, you're going to see the amount of space that you have, and that the pineapple will begin to float. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the sugar directly to the jar, and then I'm going to add filtered water. So in this case, I'm going to decide if I'm going to use a 1/4 cup sugar in each jar or a 1/3 cup. I need to calculate it out. A heavy syrup in some ingredient books is like a 50-50 water to sugar ratio, and that's just way too much. So I'm cutting it back. I'm probably going to do a little over a 1/4 cup per jar. I know it sounds like a lot, and it probably is, but after these things sit for a season and you start cracking them open, you don't want just tasteless pulp. You want a little bit of sugar. The sugar that's in the pineapple isn't quite enough. And trust me, I learned my lesson with peaches, and I'd much rather have the little extra sugar than not. Okay, so I added the sugar now to all of them. I'm just going to shake it down a bit. And the reason you add it now and not first, you would think adding it first would be better. The reason I'm doing it now is because if you do it first, the sugar stays on the bottom and it has a likeliness to clump up and not actually break down into a syrup. So do it like this. As you put your water in, it'll help dissolve the sugar a bit, and then it'll dissolve the rest of the way in the canning process. So I'm going to go ahead and top these off to about here with filtered water, and you don't really need to watch me do that. And then I'm going to put my lids and rings on. Alright, just to show you. So what I'm actually doing is I'm kind of washing it down as I fill. Alright, that's about it right there. Alright, so since this stuff is sticky, I just want to make sure that I clean off the top of the jar. And this is just a paper towel, clean one, with just water in it. And you can see how nice the sugar washed down into the jars. And you're just going to have to trust me on that sugar content. But do what you want. But there we go. I'm going to get the lids and rings on, and then we'll get them in the canner. I cleaned off the top of the jars. Now you're going to take your lids and rings, and you don't want to touch your fingers to this side because you can contaminate. So we're just going to go ahead and put these on. And you're going to do like finger tight, a little bit tighter than that. But for now I'm just going to get the lids on. You notice I used a tool if I need to touch the bottom here. But that's the gist of it. And I'll get these others on, and then we'll put them in the canner. So I'm going to put 3 in here first. I guess I could put them all in. Slowly lower them in because that water is still warm. It's not hot, it's just been sitting here. But now I'm going to add water to about a 1/2 inch or so over the jars, and then we're going to go ahead and start the burner. Alright, so the jars are warming up, and you start them with cold water, not hot water, because you want the contents of the jars to come up at roughly the same temperature as the water. You do notice that I took the lids and rings out of water and I had these warming up. Ball, and I say this in every video, Ball claims you don't really need to do this. I, however, still like to do that. It sterilizes them to an extent, but it also, if there's any dust or debris, it washes them off. I mean, that's perfect. And these I'm just going to take out to dry, and it doesn't hurt them, and we'll use them for the next processing. So I'm probably going to pick up at least 4 more of these pineapples if they still have them. I'd like to get about 20 quarts on the shelves by winter time anyway. Between that and I'll do peaches again this year, and have some fruit on the shelves. Alright, so 30 minutes went by. Just removing them from the canner. You can see the jars inside, the contents are still boiling. Okay, that's a wrap. So we'll let these cool. I don't know if you'll hear it on video. It might not. It might take a little while, but the tops will suck down and pop. And then once they cool, I'll put them downstairs on the shelf. And then we'll get some more pineapples at some point. But that's it. And I just want to say, this isn't a how-to video by no means. This is just how I do it. It saves me a little bit of time, and it works just fine. The next time though, since I'd like to do a full batch, meaning 7 quarts, I'm gonna probably pick up at least 1 more pineapple. So this was 4 pineapples. I'm hoping that 5 pineapples will fill 7 jars, or at least come very close. It could even be like 6 jars and a pint, something like that. But anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day.